11th, 2023, our motor vehicle legal report, and we have present Nate Jackson. We have our chairman Roberts is present. We have Commissioner Kramer is present. We have Commissioner Norton is present. I see an empty spot for Commissioner Jim Galvin, so obviously he's no longer on this committee. And I see Commissioner Levy. Good morning. And we have our staff, Director Lawrence. We have Attorney Hilton. We have Attorney Smith. And I think I saw Staff Barry Whitson in the back. And we also have our Attorney Neil Stafford. I hope I pronounced that right. And we got quite a few already in the audience, so I don't know who all they are. And I see we got some commissioners standing in the back. Commissioner Melton,
Galvin, and Charles West.
Oh, Commissioner West. Commissioner West. Welcome. Now we're going to turn the legal report over to the staff. And I guess we could start off with Chairman Roberts, if you got any questions regarding the report.
I do.
Okay.
This was excellent work by Erica and Taylor. I mean, this is the best I've seen since I've been coming to meetings. So anyway, I've got 6 to always something you can comment on. Number 16, I would recommend $250 with a letter of instruction for failure to disclose demonstrator use. In the state of Tennessee, a vehicle is a new vehicle until it's titled. And I think sometimes we get lost on that part of it, but both Title 55, Chapter 3, and in Tennessee Consumer Protection Act, they establish a vehicle is new until it's titled. And so, y'all take a look at that.
Could I ask on that? I thought there was a mileage limit. Like if it's over certain miles, you had to mark it.
You do have to mark it demonstrator, but not used unless, well, maybe there is. Maybe it's 10,000.
I don't know. I was going to ask, what is the code? Is it the staff know what the code says?
I couldn't find a specific mileage limit in Tennessee. Like, there's different opinions if you were to look online. If you were just to Google, mileage limit for demonstration, and it's all kind of all over the board. And I couldn't find it in law specifically for our state. But it does state in our statute under the Motor Vehicle Commission statutes that you can't hold out a car to be a new vehicle if it's used for demonstration purposes. So we do have that, but it doesn't reference mileage.
I bet Bob would know, but something in my mind says you don't have to market a demo until it reaches 6,000 miles.
That's that. I remember that number too.
Yeah,
6,000.
but I can't remember where I saw that or read that.
I thought it was like 7,500, but
Yeah.
I remember close to what you do.
Yeah, but you could still show it as a new vehicle up until a certain mileage, and then you had to show it as a demo, not used, like you said. It's still a new vehicle, but it is a demo. But
Okay.
I thought there was
Because there's
mileage limit.
there's 3 boxes at least. I don't know if this is universal throughout the industry, but for this dealership's bill of sales, there's 3 boxes: new, used, demo. And I asked the investigator, well, how did you come up with the fact that you are calling this a demo in your report? And he stated that the general manager had just referred to it as a demo. So that's kind of all I had to go on. So if you feel, I'm definitely willing to come down if you feel like that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think 250 in a letter of instruction would be more appropriate. But what do you think?
I'd be just inclined with a letter of instructions since it's not clear. I mean, I don't.
That's, and I was on the fence about that.
Yeah,
so.
Wasn't it like 3,300 miles or something? Was
Yes.
It?
I would like to clear that matter up.
Yeah.
If there's some further investigation by the staff to determine what does the code say, and that way we could be clear on it, because it's definitely not a clear perspective.
So a letter of instruction is more appropriate. Okay.
I'm good with that.
Agree with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 18, was this in a period when we were, with COVID, and we were allowing people a third tag through the Department of Revenue?
We had talked about that because originally the fine was only for one going over, but we just didn't have the information, and I had reached out. I didn't get a response back from that. So kind of what we decided on was we would fine them for 2 temporary tags, and then if they got back to me and provided me proof that it was only one, we could adjust the penalty at that point.
I'm fine. 31, I'd suggest a letter of instruction along with a $500 penalty. I'd also encourage revenue and to send reminders, and we need to send reminders to the county court clerk on this issue.
Get that set up to
You do?
to
Okay.
inform them of that. We have a spreadsheet to let them
Great.
know when we have these kind of violations.
Good deal.
Say that again, Chairman Roberts. I didn't get your recommendation was
The recommendation,
on 31.
go ahead and Taylor and tell him what you're doing.
Sorry,
now.
that's for temporary tags, but we will inform them of this failure
Okay.
to disclose it.
And that is to, let's see here. I've had an incident with my right eye, so I can't see very well. I can't read my own writing, but my right eye is a little bit fuzzy. So anyway, we're just getting the county clerks to just reminding them to be on top of this.
Okay, yep. I refer to the clerk's office.
Gotcha. Number
Is the penalty staying the same, the $500?
yes.
Okay, good.
Number 33, I would not forward to CID.
Okay.
I can't believe a dealer would roll miles back from 206 to 200.
Yeah, we had talked about that, and just because they had a similar complaint with the same allegations, we had just decided maybe we should let them refer and they can look into it and see if they find any allegations of anything.
Sure.
Because
I
their
mean,
2020 complaint was for the same issue.
And so there's no appreciable difference in
Yeah.
the money. I mean, it's just negligible. I mean, it's just nothing. So anyway, 102. We need to look at this one due to the size of the proposed fine. I think this is the one that I looked at and I thought, how did they get to do so many temporary tags on 2 vehicles? It seemed like one of them was 8 and one was 5. And it's like, is the system broken?
That's what we're trying to figure out. That's why we do have agreement kind of with the Department of Revenue where we're referring to them any cases we have off of any of our legal reports, letting them know anytime a dealer issues more than the allowed number of temporary tags so that they can investigate it and get more information on it.
Are they able to get paper ones now still?
I
that where
believe if they have them from the past, they can still use them, but
Okay.
they're definitely not issuing any.
They're not anymore?
Right.
Okay.
So once it runs out, then they'll go away.
But I believe we do know some dealers do still have
Yes,
some, and they
I-
are still issuing them as well.
Okay.
But to be honest, most of these complaints that our investigations revealed that the dealership has issued too many temporary tags. Most of these are through the Easy Tag system,
Mhm.
and I've had multiple conversations with the director over at the Department of Revenue
Okay.
to let them know, that this is definitely happening. They're able to somehow issue more than the statute allows, and I think the director was a little surprised by that. So I think there's multiple ways to finagle the system. I'm not sure how, but what we've agreed is that going forward, anytime we find that that's happened, we're going to send the Department of Revenue to that director in particular, all the information we have so they can look into it and kind of figure out how the dealers are doing this.
Sure.
And hopefully change the system to be able to prevent it. So we're working on that.
Yeah, we're not sure if the system is just letting them do it or they're manipulating things in order to get more temporary tags.
It is happening. My staff pointed out to me it's easy to cheat the system. So, you might want to just reach out to some sizable dealers who are familiar with how that happens, and you probably get all the feedback you need. Probably my staff.
And contact some of us, and if we can assist you in how it works for our stores, we'll be glad to let you look into it.
Okay, yeah, that would be great. Just to have more
Okay.
information kind of on how that's working.
Okay. Number 109, my final one. That was the one where we fined this person pretty aggressively, but it was very fair. And I'm okay with sticking with the fine. You know, I think the fine is great. They're fine. They're fine with it too. I just would add a letter of instruction that if this occurs again, that the Motor Vehicle Commission will reconsider suspension and/or revocation, because that seems to be what really got their attention the most.
Okay, we can do that.
Okay, and that's really all I have.
Is that the one where they had the question about could we not make them close their doors for
Yes,
5 days?
that's it.
Yes.
Have we made a
That's the
decision
5
on that?
days. So
That's a
no,
recommendation, yeah.
I'm just saying I'm okay with taking away the suspension for 5 days. I'm okay with that because they were bucking up about not wanting that because it would violate their sales and service agreement, which I think that we've all been kind about that because we don't want to shut anybody down unless we just have to, where they just will not comply with our rules.
Well, and along with that, it was mentioned it was a harm to the public, but if you shut down a dealership for 5 days with the service department, the parts not being available, that is a harm to the public. So I agree.
Yeah.
And I did verify that they truly are the only dealership for that make within 100 miles.
So I think that's fine, but I do think that at some point you do have to shut them down if they can't come in because they're hurting them in a different way. So anything from, go ahead.
The only question I got to the staff, I noticed we got a lot of trend of dealers not responding to the complaints. And I went over like 38, 36, 65, 60, and 60. Whatever reason. Anything do or anything else recommend? I don't know particular ones, but what can we do about not responding to the staff?
Let's talk to Erica about
Yeah,
that.
we have definitely seen a major uptick in from between the time of getting a complaint or between the time a complainant has bought a car to the time the complaint makes it to us, that the dealerships have closed. Or we had one that a dealership wasn't even, I haven't actually, it's not on this report, but it'll be on the next report, where a dealership was there, not licensed, a full dealership, and they disappeared. The skipped, rent from the landlord. So I don't know if it is something with the economy, or I don't know if there's something going on with the sale of cars, that these small businesses just aren't able to make it, or there's just more shady practices happening and they're waiting until they get caught to disappear. But I will say that, we always verify that the addresses that we get for these dealerships are correct. If we send the complaints out regular mail, and if they don't respond, we send them out certified mail. We verify that they've either picked up the mail or they haven't, or if it's come back, undeliverable, we send out an investigator. We always send out an investigator to try to find them. We take, the step of trying to find their residents if their dealership is no longer in business. I will commend our investigation staff for the actions they take to try to find these people or the dealers that are doing this. But I'm not, I haven't really come up with anything more that we can do with the resources and tools that we have. But I'm definitely open to any suggestions. Hopefully this trend will go away. It's kind of new, so hopefully maybe it's just a wave of it. I don't know if the director has any opinion on anything else we can do, but I feel like we're trying our best.
And hopefully issuing these letter of warnings, because we previously didn't do that, and then we started doing that a few meetings ago. So hopefully issuing those and letting them know if they fail to respond one more time, it's going to result in a civil penalty, not just a letter of warning. So hopefully that gets them answering if they have any future complaints. And I think sending out investigators is the best tactic that we have. We do that if we don't get a response, and they are pretty good about contacting them and figuring out why they didn't respond to us and getting more information on that. So I think that's the best tool we currently have.
Well, like on number 60, this this respondent refused to cooperate. I mean, I think there should be some penalty if you're not going to cooperate.
Sorry, no, it was the complainant that failed to cooperate within that investigation, not
Okay.
the respondent. Yes.
So if a respondent failed to cooperate, we would absolutely take action.
My bad. Okay.
Commissioner
I
Norton,
see. Oh, I'm sorry.
will you finish? Yeah. Okay,
So
Commissioner.
another thing that I've noticed and I've heard from respondents that fail to respond and still have an active license is their front desk staff or somebody is receiving the complaint and not passing it on. So I know that you all are in the industry. I don't know if that's a valid, not that anything is a valid excuse, but if that's something that can be fairly dealt with a letter of warning the first time, and then they get it right after that. They change the way they're handling their mail. And that's kind of what we've set up the initial letter of warning for, instead of immediately penalizing them. But if you feel strongly that we should start out with the penalty, I think we're open to that.
Well, if this Commissioner Jack, if the trend continue, then we may need to really look at that.
Okay.
Starting out with a
We'll
penalty.
keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Just keep us informed as to if you feel like you're gaining any momentum with this.
Okay.
And if we can always change it later.
Okay.
Okay.
Commissioner Norton.
Yes, thank you. I was going to concur with Chairman Roberts. I've been reading the legal review for a long time, and I thought this was a very good read. Matter of fact, I got about halfway through. I thought, slow down, you're missing something. But the resolutions are good and they're spot on. However, I did observe something, and I'm going to direct to the staff and to the commission as well. Is being a dealer, we just recently, and I see the common thread here throughout the reports, is salvage titles. Rebuilt. Okay, so that's an issue, and we just recently, as a dealer, deployed an acquisition team. To what I mean by that, go out in the streets and buy cars, mainly on Facebook Marketplace. Now I see a lot of complaints in here at the top end. They didn't know they bought a rebuilt car, or they bought one and they were issued a temporary tag, and the title hadn't come back. It's just creating a lot of problems. So what I've uncovered in doing this is we have dealers on red tags, used car dealers showing up at our dealership to sell us a car, and then they're presenting a title from an individual, okay? And they're cleaning these titles, they're rebuilt titles, and they're and you look at the mileage from when they converted the title to the name of a person, and it's under 100 miles. So they're cleaning these titles up, and they're presenting them to the marketplace, Facebook, to sell to consumers. That's why we're seeing a lot of these complaints. So what I'm doing, I was telling Chairman Roberts, I'm going to start building a log of who these people are. But I would say if it's a common thing and it's a harm to the public, and it's clearly displayed on Facebook Marketplace, I would say that's a target for investigators to look at that, to inquire, because they don't reveal themselves as a dealer. That's crazy. And then they show up as a dealer with an individual title, not a licensed dealer. So anyway, I was just discussing that, and I thought that would be something we need to take a look, because it's a common thread through this report, that issue.
I do feel like we had more than we typically do with that kind of issue throughout this report. I had a few, and I think you had a few, Erica.
Great service to the public and harmed. It's hard for them to get wrong.
Don't you all agree that if we provide you with the information from Facebook, that will help with your investigation?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
So forward that on.
We can
Okay.
keep that and
Okay.
use it.
Commissioner Levy, you have any comments, any questions? Okay, good. Anyone else? Okay. Well, that concludes the report. Do we need to get a motion subject to with the correction and subject to the full commission adoption? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, so ordered. We declare the legal report is over. Done.
All right, thank you.
Wasn't too painful, and 10 minutes to go to the next quarterly meeting starts. I'm Chairman Roberts, and we're getting started at 9:30, right on time. There is a sign-up sheet that we're starting to do now in the back. So anybody that's here, if they would please sign in, and we'll have an explanation of that and the use of it later in the program or in the meeting. And so anyway, if you will, the staff will show you where that sign-in sheet is. I would like to announce that we've got 2 new members, and the first time since I've chaired this commission that we've had all seats seated, all. And so we've got 2 new members, Hubert Owens, Commissioner, good to have you. And he is a consumer member. And then we have Tim Copenhagen from the 1st District up in East Tennessee. So he's not here today, but he will be next meeting, hopefully. Okay. Executive Director Lawrence, will you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Andrews is absent. Commissioner Barker is present. Commissioner Galvin
Here.
is present. Commissioner Jackson
Present.
is present. Commissioner Kramer
Here.
is present. Commissioner Levy
Here.
is present. Commissioner Melton is present. Commissioner Norton
Here.
is present. Commissioner Owens is present. Commissioner Vaughn
Here.
is present. Commissioner West
Here.
is present, and Chairman Roberts
Here.
is present. Mr. Chairman, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Meeting notice.
This meeting's date, time, and location have been noticed on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission website, including as part of this year's meeting calendar since November 20th, 2022. Additionally, the agenda for this month's meeting has been posted on the Tennessee Motor Vehicle Commission website since July 5th, 2023. This meeting has also been noticed on the tn.gov website.
We need to adopt the agenda. Do we have a motion to adopt?
So
Commissioner Jackson, motion to adopt the agenda.
Commissioner Vaughn, second.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. We need to approve the minutes from the April 2023 meeting. And what is your pleasure on adoption of those?
Make a motion that we adopt the minutes.
Any further discussion? Let's have a roll call vote on the minutes.
The motion is to adopt the minutes as presented. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton? Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Owens?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. You've adopted the minutes from our previous meeting.
Right. Next, this morning, we have salesperson, dealer appeals. Would you like to cover that, Ms. Taylor? Okay, Neil.
Yes, sir. So our first appeal this morning that we have is Brandon Toth, and his application was denied based on convictions of theft that do constitute crimes involving moral turpitude. And based on the information the applicant provided, it appears that 5 years have not passed since the latest date of release, probation or parole for his offenses of theft. And the commission would have discretion to deny his application until December 9th, 2031, based on a conviction of theft over $60,000, which is a Class B felony with a 12-year sentence that was imposed December 9th of 2014. So if he is here,
Toth, is that how you say it? Toth? Come on up and address us if you would. Did you bring anybody with you? Okay. Would he come up too and he,
Sorry.
okay.
Go ahead.
Give us, your side of the story of what's going on with you.
Of course. So what happened was I used to own a real estate development company, and back in 2008, everybody knows the market crashed, and I was holding about $4 million in properties and bridge loans, and I couldn't get anybody financed, so I took some bridge loan and I lied on the application about how quickly we were turning the properties over. I made all the interest payments and everything, but unfortunately, I did lie. I mean, I did break the law, and unfortunately, it took about 4.5 years to go through the process in courts and 2 more years in appeal. The reason why I asked to be able to have a hearing is that after that, I actually got my real estate license, and I was a finance director for Sheehy Auto Group up north, and was able to get my sales license. So for the last 6.5 years, from when I committed my crime to when I actually started serving my time, I never even got as much as a speeding ticket. I held a license in real estate and did very well with no complaints whatsoever, no board actions, no issues at all. And had I not actually had to go to prison, would still have that license today. When I was in prison, I served my time as well as anybody could. I never got any write-ups. I was considered a trustee, which actually allowed me to go anywhere in the facility and out of the facility without supervision. I actually had Eugene Pugh write a letter on my behalf. He's the mayor of Halls, just because he had known me for the last couple of years. And then I prepared myself for getting out because I knew the only thing I was really good at was sales. And unfortunately, I knew that having this against me was going to make it almost impossible to get a good career. So when I applied, I was actually quite surprised how welcoming the dealerships were, in spite of knowing what I had. I guess they just didn't realize that the sales license would be the hurdle. All I can say is that, yes, I did commit that. Yes, I paid back restitution even before I had to. I stayed out of trouble. I kept a sales license in Maryland and Virginia with no problems at all. I got my real estate license even after the conviction. And I just asked that you would maybe give me an opportunity to stay in Tennessee, to continue paying my debt back, and to rebuild my life.
Would you announce your name and what your relationship is to
Yes, my name is Jack Winley. I am the used car manager for the Sunrise Auto Group. And when Brandon came to us, the first thing he asked us, or we asked, tell us about yourself, as we do in any interview. And he says, well, let me tell you the bad news first. And he did. And he went into detail, told us everything. We had our general manager talk to him. Our general manager talked to him. And we said, well, we'd like to put you on pending your license, because we knew that could definitely be a problem. Brandon is well liked in the dealership. He's done a good job. We've got him in our BDC and the service drive right now because it doesn't require a license. But he's very good with customers. He's very good with the employees. We believe, because, and what kind of shifted our thinking is when Maryland issued him a sales license and a real estate license after the conviction, and with no problems that we found, we thought that we would give him a chance. And our thing, we're asking, hopefully you will do the same. And also I wanted to add that when Brandon came to Memphis, he not only researched the dealer groups in the area, which there are a couple large dealer groups in the town. He also we have 3 dealerships in the city of Memphis, and he researched our 3 stores and decided that the Wolf Chase store was the one that he wanted to be at. And so.
Questions from commissioners?
Commissioner Vaughn, I have a few questions. You already answered one of them about restitution. So you're still in the process of making restitution?
Yes.
How much more do you have left?
I paid out $40,000 already, and I think I have $130 left, if I'm not mistaken. I pay $700 a month.
You haven't missed a payment?
No.
Okay. And no other issues?
I'm in perfect standing when it comes to that.
Okay. And you'll be his supervisor? Okay. Honestly, I don't have any other questions. Normally,
Commissioner would have questions. What's the reason for you coming from Virginia, Maryland to Tennessee?
Well, I actually served my time in Tennessee.
Okay.
So it's kind of a funny story. When I was I kept myself studying. I was still receiving F&I magazines. I was still reading sales books, Grant Cardone, trying to keep myself as up to date as I could. And one of the things that I told myself is that this is where I owe my time back to. So my goal was, I actually got divorced while in prison. I was married for 22 years, and unfortunately it just didn't work out after that. So I decided I was going to be starting over from scratch anyways. Why not start over in the place that I have the most to prove? And like I said, I've been blessed. I mean, everybody's actually been really welcoming in spite of what happened. So to me, this is my home now. This is where I spent the last 7 years at. This is where I've started literally from scratch, everything. So,
Other comments from commissioners or questions?
Commissioner Jackson, I motion that we grant the license.
Commissioner Vaughn, second.
Further discussion? Executive Director Lawrence, will you call for the vote?
Yes, sir. The motion is to grant licensure. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton? Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Owens?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts? Votes aye. Mr. Toth, I apologize.
all right, everybody says wrong.
Your license has been granted by the commission, and we
Thank you.
will email you an electronic copy today.
I really do appreciate you guys giving me that opportunity. Thank you.
Next, Ryan Williams, would you like to give us a intro to this case?
Ryan Williams. This application was denied based on the applicant's convictions of forgery, which do constitute crimes involving moral turpitude, and 5 years have not passed since the latest date of release, probation, or parole for the 4 forgery convictions. The commission would have discretion to deny this applicant until October 30th of 2024.
Hey, Mr. Williams, would you like to address us and tell us what's been going on with your life?
Good morning, everyone. Nice to be here. So I was just a background of me. When I was 18 years old, I had got addicted to narcotics. I was on drugs for about 9 years, which led into check forgery. I was writing bad checks to myself, going and depositing those, and ended up getting put into jail for that. When I got put into jail, I started to seek treatment programs that they offered through the court system back home. I tried to go to Memphis to one of the programs out there. They denied that and then sent me to Blount County Recovery Court. There was a 3% success rate for that program, which I did graduate. I did complete. It was a 2.5 year long program that I had went through. Once I completed it, I got out. I got to work, started working construction. Since then, I paid back all the restitutions. I graduated that program. I have also finished my probation period. I'm no longer serving any time for that past mistake that I had made. Worked construction for about 5-6 years after that. And then the owner at Volunteer Auto Group, Mr. Hepperly, approached me at church one day, asked me if I'd be interested in working for them. I took on that role. I now do advertisement and on Facebook, just different social media platforms, relations with the banks, and looking forward to hopefully furthering my career in sales with this company to be able to better provide for my wife and my 3 boys.
Who did you bring with you?
This is Yates.
Well, I'll tell you what, before we do that, let's let the commissioners talk to you about any questions they have.
Sir.
Okay.
Commissioner Jackson, just a question. I was looking for, what was the amount of the bad checks that you?
I believe it was about $30,000.
About 30,000.
Yeah. I paid it back in 100%. Yes, sir. Along with court costs.
One more question, just curious. Was that check written to a bank, or were they stolen checks? Or?
A few of them was stolen checks, and then other ones was checks. I would go open a banking account and then write the check to myself and cash it, not having the funds to be able to provide for it. And also to add, I am 8 years this December 6th off of narcotics.
Commissioner Vaughn, I have 1 or 2 questions about that. Are you still in recovery programs? How's your support system for
Family.
that?
Family, and then the people that I surround myself around. I completely changed. Once I had gotten out and went through the program that I did, I didn't make friends with a lot of people. The success rate being 3%, you have a lot of people that get back into that lifestyle, and I chose to stay real close with my parents, my brothers. I have a wife and 3 little boys, and that's my support.
You brought State your name.
Yeah, my name is Nick Yates.
Okay. What's your relation to?
So I'm the CFO at Volunteer Auto Group out of
Okay.
Maryville, Tennessee.
Okay.
We have 5 locations now. Mr. Hepperly, who owns the business, has been in business for about 25 years. Mr. Williams came to work with us about 4 years ago, and at the time, in social media, some marketing efforts, BDC. I'm sure you guys are familiar with that. Ended up moving into more of a senior role in lender relations, so just helped us manage a lot of our lenders that we have. We're an independent auto dealership, so we have credit unions, finance companies, banks. So just his work over the 4 years has been exemplary. Never had an issue out of him, and like he said, he's looking for an opportunity to move into sales and hopefully better provide for himself.
After hearing some of his story, are you comfortable with working with him?
Yeah.
Okay.
He and I actually go to church together. We've gone to church together for 3 years. He's, we're not best friends, but we're certainly friends inside and outside of work. We've never had an integrity issue out of Mr. Williams. And he's been in multiple locations. He's, if there were opportunities to do things, he certainly could have done them, and never had one question about his integrity.
Questions from the
Mr. Galvin.
question? Executive Director Lawrence, will you call the vote?
The motion is to grant licensure. Commissioner Levy?
Yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Yes.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton? Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Owens? Votes aye. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. Mr. Williams, your license has been granted by the Motor Vehicle Commission, and you should get an electronic copy of that today, emailed. Maybe late, and I can't approve it. So
Thanks so much.
thank you.
Executive Director Lawrence, are you ready to give your report?
Yes, sir, I am ready to give my report. As you all can see, we had about half the number of dealers that we had opened at our last meeting have been opened as new dealers for this meeting. That may actually point to some of the issues that you guys pointed out earlier about dealers closing and things like that. So hopefully we are on the mend from a little downturn in the economy. Our numbers have pretty much remained steady in terms of total licenses issued. We have, as you can see, 186 complaints open, 270 were closed, in large part due to your efforts here in the commission meeting. We've collected approximately $134,100 in late annual sales report fees, which is bad that they submitted it late, but good that we've received that much revenues from it. I continue to be very, very proud of my team. We have a satisfaction rating of 96% when we inquire with our consumers, if they're satisfied with the questions that they had when they called us. A couple of things that I wanted to mention. I know there had been some confusion. The protest that will begin today at 1 p.m. may have been listed on our website calendar as starting at 1 p.m. on Thursday. The protest will continue in the morning at 9 a.m. and on Thursday morning at 9 a.m. So 2 full days. And I also emailed everyone updated meeting calendars for the remainder of this year, then 2024 and 2025. We've got 2 minor changes. On October of 2024, the original dates that we had chosen were already taken, so we moved it to the last week, the 28th and the 29th of October. And then in January of 2025, we discovered when I was looking at it that actually looks like the date that we originally had, the 14th. I believe, may be the date that the legislature actually reconvenes, and that's probably not the best idea to have us competing with them. Anybody that hasn't finished your Title VI training, please make sure you do so and let me know by, hopefully by Friday. They're due by Saturday. Also, if you have, this is going to be a different kind of a meeting because I know everybody's going to be staying through for the protest. So if you have at the end of the period expenses that you want to hand to me directly, I'm happy to take those and get them to Marcia, who will then process the per diem and expense reports. The last thing I wanted to announce is that our October meeting, which also involves a protest, is scheduled to take place in this room. However, we are being notified that the room may be under construction. Of course, we've been notified of that before. It hadn't happened. So that may happen in October. Out of an abundance of caution, I've reserved a room at the Tennessee Tower. I will be in contact with you routinely between now and then to let you know exactly where we're going to be meeting. I'm trying to kind of wait and see if this room is actually going to be worked on or not. I think you'll see a copy of our disciplinary action report since the last meeting, and that is basically all I have. We have been in the throes of the rollout of the new CORE, and CORE is not new. That's our regulatory licensing system. It's not new on our side, but has gotten a huge facelift from the public side. So we have had a relatively smooth transition. Our staff tested continually to make sure that we knew what we were doing, and we've had very, very few glitches and complaints from the public when saying they can't get through or something, which is not necessarily true of the other programs. So I'm very proud again of my guys for staying on top of that. And that is basically all I have.
Legal report. Erica, you were. Oh, yes, excuse me.
Motion be approved.
Commissioner Jackson seconded.
Okay.
Commissioner Barker made
All
the
right.
motion.
Any further discussion? You want to call the roll for us, Denise?
Motion is to approve the director's report. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton? Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Owens?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts.
Okay. There are a few changes that were made to the legal report during the committee meeting. For number 16, we're going to change it to a letter of instruction. I'm sorry, is that 6 or 16?
16.
16, okay. Number 16, we're going to change it to a letter of instruction instead of a penalty. Number 31, we're going to refer it to the local county clerk's office instead of the Department of Revenue. Number 33, we're not going to forward it to CID. And number 109, we're going to add a letter of instruction to inform the respondent that the Motor Vehicle Commission will consider suspension or revocation of their license if they have any further incidences.
And also 102, I think we had some discussion.
We discussed it, but I don't think we made any changes.
Okay, correct. With that said and done, I motion that with these changes, Commissioner Jackson motion that we adopt the legal report.
Commissioner Vaughn, second.
Further discussion? Let's call the roll for that one too.
The motion is to adopt the legal report made by Commissioner Jackson and seconded by Commissioner Vaughn. The legal report as amended. Commissioner Levy?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner West?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Melton? Votes aye. Commissioner Galvin?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Norton?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Vaughn?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Jackson?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Kramer?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Owens?
Aye.
Votes aye. Commissioner Barker?
Aye.
Votes aye. And Chairman Roberts?
Aye.
Votes aye. You adopt.
Legislative updates.
Brief legislative update. Public Chapter 300 regarding public comments at public meetings took effect on July 1st. of this year. This requires us to include a period of public comment in each of our commission meetings, other than disciplinary hearings, to specifically allow for that period of public comment. So we need to, as we have today, add a line to our agenda regarding a public comment period related to items on the agenda. The public comments have to be germane to items on the agenda, and that's on the agenda as you have noticed. And we need to have a sign-up sheet available for individuals to make public comments, as the chair mentioned earlier, and actually allow for that public comment period. All I have.
Hey, do we need to vote on that? I don't think so. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thank you for your update. And committee reports. We don't have any reports in either committee, either audit or rules. And new business, Mr. Stauffer, you got a good little presentation for us?
Yes, sir. This is on the sunshine law. I would just.
Driving movie.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly it.
So we all know the song, "You Are My Sunshine," my only sunshine.
We would rather you sing that. Would you please?
I don't want to.
That would make this presentation better, I think.
Scare anybody off. Okay, next slide. Just a disclaimer, I'm not going to read the whole thing, but basically this is just saying don't use this presentation as a substitute for legal advice. If you have questions, consult your board attorney, which would be me. Next slide. Okay, so the Open Records Act, that's codified in TCA 107503, says that public records are open for inspection to any citizen of Tennessee except as otherwise provided by law. And there are a lot. There are hundreds of exceptions to the Act, actually. Go through all of those, but we will talk about what is included in open records for a board or commission. Public records or state records include, of course, documents, media, electronic data, other materials regardless of physical form or characteristic. If it's made or received pursuant to law or ordinance or in connection with the transaction of official business by any government. Public records do not include the devices, for instance, like the iPads that you might have things on. That's not considered a public record. It's the actual document or the record itself. Next slide. The Open Meetings Act is found in TCA 844-101. Next slide. So this is kind of the roadmap slide of what we'll talk about. What is the Public Meetings Act? What is a meeting? What is it not? What is required for a meeting covered by the Public Meetings Act? You've got to have notice. That's done through our agenda, public presence, and minutes. And then we'll talk about if what happens if the board violates the Public Meetings Act. It becomes a nullity. It becomes null and void. You got to start all over again. Next slide. So Open Meetings Act definition is found in TCA 844-101A. The General Assembly hereby declares it to be the policy of the state that the formation of public policy and decisions is public business and shall not be conducted in secret. Next slide. This part shall not be construed to limit any of the rights and privileges contained in Article 1, Section 19 of the Tennessee Constitution. So this is just saying that nothing in this is going to limit any of the rights that are found in the Constitution. That's the provision of the Tennessee Constitution dealing with free speech. Slide. The Public Meetings Act is remedial in nature. This is a case that speaks to that. basically the takeaway here is that the government body cannot deliberate. A government body cannot deliberate in a closed door meeting. Broadly to promote openness and accountability in government. Next slide. MVC section 844-102A, all meetings of any governing body, keyword, governing body, all meetings of any governing body are declared to be public meetings open to the public at all times, except as provided by the Constitution of Tennessee. Next slide. 844-102B1A, governing body. So what is that? What's a governing body? That means the members of any public body which consists of 2 or more members with the authority to make decisions for or recommendations to a public body on policy or administration. So the Open Meetings Act or the Public Meetings Act, that's going to apply to all boards and commissions. It applies to us. Next slide. The Public Meetings Act applies to every meeting of a board or commission. What is a meeting? So a meeting means the convening of a governing body of a public body for which a quorum is required in order to make a decision or deliberate toward a decision on any matter. And this applies to committee meetings and subcommittee meetings as well. We talked about what is a meeting. So what is not a meeting under the law? A meeting does not include any on-site inspection of any project or program, so the inspectors cannot, along with the inspection, get together and deliberate towards a decision. Don't foresee that being likely that would ever happen, but that's just an example of what is not a meeting. What else is not a meeting? A meeting does not include a chance meeting of two or more members of a public body. So you see another board member at the grocery store, chance meeting, you exchange pleasantries. That's not going to be a meeting. As long as you should not talk about public business or deliberate on any public business. Best to stay away from it entirely. No such chance meeting or informal assemblages can be used to decide or deliberate public business in circumvention of the spirit of the requirements of the Public Meetings Act. Okay, what else is not a meeting? This is from a Tennessee Attorney General opinion. 2 or more members of a public body can actually share a meal together in which public business is not conducted. So obviously you would not want to deliberate on anything. The discussion should not be about any public business or deliberations. Forming opinions, weighing arguments for or against a particular course of action would be off limits for any such shared meal. What else is not a meeting? Lunch breaks, restroom breaks, smoke breaks, recesses, adjournments. These are times when board business should not be discussed. Regular meetings and special meetings, these all count as meeting. These are subject to the Open Meetings Act under 844-103A and B. An exception to this would be executive session. Next slide. So executive session would be if there's, for instance, if there's a pending lawsuit or expected lawsuit and the board wants to meet with its attorney in private to ask questions of the attorney, then the board can do that. And that is not subject to being open. That's not subject to the Open Meetings Act. That's an exception. Next slide. So in executive session, no deliberations. That's just a time for the board. If there's executive session, you'll know it. You would be informed on that. Not a time for any matter that may come before. Time to ask questions of your attorney. Next slide. So how far does this go? This is from Tennessee Attorney General opinion, kind of just illustrates this strong preference for openness. This is just an example of how far this Open Meetings Act actually goes, that oral interviews conducted by the Civil Service Commission of Maury County with persons applying for jobs within the service of the Maury County Sheriff's Department actually came within the provisions of the Open Meetings Act. So it's just to illustrate this, again, strong preference for openness under Tennessee law. Next slide. So this slide is focusing really on deliberations. So for instance, if a member emails the chair of the board, here's a news article, I'd like something included on the next agenda. That's fine. That's not public business. So that's just a topic of interest that you're saying you want to add to the agenda. What you wouldn't want to do is say, here is a news item about one of our licensees. We should consider revocation, because that would be crossing the lines into deliberation. Next slide. So this slide is really focusing on the fact that you want to ask for legal advice on the front end if there's a question. Ask for advice from contact me, contact board staff. I'm going to give you my contact information at the end as well. But you want to ask for legal advice on the front end if you have a question. Email me. I have a question about the legal consequences of something the board or the commission has done. What you wouldn't want to do is say, I've taken action as a commissioner and now someone is upset, and dealing with it on the back end is much easier if we can just address it on the front end. Next question, next slide, please. If a member emails another commissioner, if you send an email or pick up the phone to call another commissioner, that's not going to be deemed a chance meeting. Even if you don't discuss business of the commission, it gives a strong, or it can give a strong appearance of impropriety. So best to stay away from that. Next slide. If one or more members, yes, sir. Yeah.
So you say we can't email or call each other without giving that impression, but earlier you said it's fine for us to eat lunch in public. How to communicate?
You're allowed to, you would be allowed to exchange pleasantries, but you just cannot go into talking about board business.
What's the difference on, it's perfectly fine to exchange pleasantries at lunch if another commissioner emailed me to discuss the weather or national?
It would be okay if it's just to exchange pleasantries or discuss something other than board business, but I think the takeaway here is just a general preference for staying away from it entirely, if at all possible, of emailing or calling another commission member, just to avoid, just for the sake of cautiousness and safety, to avoid any appearance. Probably not best to even have a meal.
Shouldn't we have lunch together?
Yeah.
Public.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that, the Attorney General's opinion, it speaks to that, and that technically a meal is okay if you're not discussing matters of commission business. But my advice to you would be to stay away from that entirely. Stay away, if at all possible, to avoid the appearance of impropriety. But at the very least, if there's any communications, whether it's a chance meeting or a meal or a phone call, none of those communications and discussions should go into anything revolving around.
Why does the General Assembly not adhere to this?
For the General Assembly. Give you my advice as your counsel to this.
Being on the commission for a long time, we've always walked down and had lunch if we're here all day, but I've never had anybody discuss business from here. It is very strict that, everybody talks about their kids or whatever, so that's never been a problem.
Yeah, and I think, that's fine. You can have lunch together, just don't discuss commission business. Yeah.
No,
Any other questions on that? Okay.
Anything, Denise, that we need to adopt, or we've been educated? Okay. All right.
That's good. Very well.
Not done yet.
Oh, did I finish? Sorry. Okay. I thought you were done.
We're halfway.
30 minutes.
Oh,
Next
I
slide.
thought it had been.
Actually, previous slide. Sorry. So what if one or more board members or commission members cannot attend a meeting in person? The absent member can participate telephonically, but all votes have to be a roll call vote, and that's so the public knows how each commissioner voted. Next slide. So under TCA 844-108, if those members present in person make a quorum, then the meeting may proceed as normal with the other members participating by phone or electronic means. However, per department policy, any member attending by electronic means does not count toward the quorum. So we still have to have a physical in-person quorum.
I got a question back to the previous slide. So if I can't make a meeting, but I want to go online or on the phone, I can participate that way?
Participate telephonically.
Except you can't.
Can I do that on a trial as well?
But you can't. You can. It will not help in the count for a quorum.
It won't?
Exactly.
Okay.
Quorum is only based on who's here in person.
Present. Okay.
Yes, sir.
I'll make sure.
Okay, this is a case that, again, kind of going back to this strong preference for openness that is in our law. The act is to be construed favorably to the public and is all-encompassing, applies to every meeting of a governing body except where the statute on its face excludes its application. So we talked about this a little bit earlier with the update with Public Chapter 300. The public has a right to attend and observe your meetings, but, well, now it actually is in state law that there is a public comment period. The public doesn't have the right to participate if they're being disruptive, but state law now it's codified that there will be a public comment period. That's why we have that on our agenda now at every commission meeting except for disciplinary hearings. Those are some cases that, some bedtime reading for you if you want to take a look at some of those. Next slide. Three-pronged test for adequate public notice. The first is that the contents of the notice must reasonably describe the purpose of the meeting or the proposed action to be taken. So notice for us is given through our agenda. Next slide. The second prong of this adequate public notice test is that notice must be posted at a time sufficiently in advance of the actual meeting in order to give citizens an opportunity to become aware of and attend the meeting. So our notices are posted at least, our agendas are posted at least 48 hours in advance of our meetings to give notice. Third prong is that notice must be posted in a location where a member of the community could be aware of such notice. Three usual methods: internet, newspaper, and bill posting. We use the internet, posted to the commission and department website. Next slide. This is from an attorney general opinion that posting a notice online to meet the adequate public notice requirements is contingent on all the facts. It's a totality of the circumstances analysis, whether the location would be one where members of the community could become aware of the notice. So again, for us, that's posted on the internet, accessible there to the public. Our usual practice is to publish it on both the board, on the commission's website and the department website. Next slide. Again, this is talking about the adequate public notice, three-pronged test that, again, whether notice is adequate is going to be based on totality of the circumstances. Next slide. Okay, so what happens if the board doesn't follow the Open Meetings Act? Then the meeting becomes it all becomes a nullity. For example, if we were to do a rulemaking hearing and proper notice wasn't given, and that was questioned at some point, that would be deemed null and void. You'd have to start all over at that point. In a nutshell, the Public Meetings Act is designed to make sure all board business is conducted in a way that's accessible to the public. It applies to you both as an individual member and collectively as a board. Next slide. All gatherings of more than one member are meetings and are covered by the Public Meetings Act, including regular, special, and emergency meetings, and including committee and subcommittee meetings. And you have to give adequate notice. Next slide. In a nutshell, if you violate the law, any violative acts are void, and the cost of litigations can be assessed against the board. Next slide. Almost there. This is a case, NC Board of Dental Examiners. This was a U.S. Supreme Court case, 2015, dealing with anti-competitive conduct and unreasonable restraint of trade. And basically what this is saying is that you can't restrict people's ability to work. What happened in this case involved the North Carolina State Board of Dental Examiners that issued 47 cease and desist orders to non-dentists about teeth whitening. There were these mom and pop shops and kiosks that were popping up in malls, and non-dentists were whitening people's teeth for much cheaper price than dentists were charging. And the board in that case, the FTC filed a complaint. The board argued state action immunity. The FTC ultimately prevailed at the U.S. Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court rejected the board's state action immunity defense because the board did not receive active supervision by the state when it interpreted the act as addressing teeth whitening, and when it enforced the policy unilaterally of issuing cease and desist letters to non-dentist teeth whiteners. So the issue here was really state supervision. So next slide. What is active state supervision? There was not active state supervision in the NC Dental case. We do have active state supervision under our laws. So what is active state supervision? The question is whether the state's review mechanisms provide realistic assurance that a non-sovereign actor's anti-competitive conduct promotes state policy rather than merely the party's individual interests, such as in NC Dental, where the dentist action really promoted their own interests and not state policy because they were trying to wipe out the non-dentist teeth whiteners. So the question is, are there assurances that the anti-competitive conduct is in accordance with state policy? Next slide. So we have state supervision in Tennessee. This is under 4-4 1265. This was enacted in 2021. Establishes a supervising official, which is the commissioner or his designee. Next slide. And the role of the supervising official is that they ensure that the actions of the regulatory boards, if there's any action, and if there's ever any action that comes up with this board that looks like it's displacing competition, you'll hear from me, and it's going to go way above me, and more people will be involved. But if it ever gets to that point where action is taken by the board that could be perceived as displacing competition, the supervising official is involved to make sure that that action of the board clearly articulates state policy. So next slide. TCA 4-4-125, with respect to any action that the board takes other than rulemaking, the supervising official shall evaluate whether the action may constitute a potentially unreasonable restraint of trade that requires further review. And if the supervising official determines that an action requires further review, the supervising official has to do all these things: provide notice to the board, review the full evidentiary record, conduct a review of the substance of the action de novo, and in writing either approve the action, remand the action, or veto the action. So the takeaway from that is that, you know, hopefully it doesn't get to that point where action is taken that could be deemed as anti-competitive. And, you know, if that ever were to be an issue, you would hear from me. That's the end of the presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
You be able to share that with us, the presentation?
I think that, let me check on that.
Okay.
And I'll check on that and get back to you.
But there's really no change to the law. It's just you're going over it again.
Refresher. Refresher.
Okay.
That's right.
Public document, you have to share it with me.
The only change is
For $0 per copy. Thank you. Yes. I paid attention.
I will check on that and let you know.
Neil and commissioners, you should have received a copy of that with all of your materials for today, an electronic copy. But I can resend it out.
I didn't see it, so thank you.
Yes.
Good job. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any old business? So we have none. I guess, are we going to actually ask anybody if they want to make a comment at this point? Kind of late in the game. Yeah. Okay. All right. We can make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We'll see you at 1.
Putting in my formal request for public documents right now.
Food.
Don't talk to me. I'm going to go eat.
What time did I say?
I'm looking at the attorneys.